Hi, I'm Matt Foreman. Today's lesson is about supportive equipment in Olympic weightlifting: knee sleeves, knee wraps, wrist wraps, and belts. Those are the basic kinds of supportive equipment that you can use in Olympic weightlifting. Let's just go ahead and go through all of them. Knee sleeves are those neoprene, often made through Reband. That's the brand name of a knee sleeve. A lot of weightlifters choose Reband. They're just the neoprene sleeves that cover the knee. Some lifters use knee wraps. These are actually, elastic, cotton, some kind of fabric, where they have to manually wrap the knee around and tuck the knee wrap in to go around the knee. Wrist wraps are the same thing. Most people have some kind of a wrap apparatus that goes around the wrist. Some people will actually use kind of like a wrist sleeve. They actually do have neoprene wrist sleeves that can just go around and sometimes latch together with Velcro. And then belts. If you've got any Olympic weightlifting experience at all, you've seen athletes use belts, and some do and some don't. So, some general rules about this. Okay, first of all, probably the best rule when it comes to supportive equipment is this: if you need it, go ahead and use it. But if you don't need it, don't use it. If you have absolutely no problems with your knees, if your knees feel great all the time, they feel sensational, you don't have any pain, they don't feel stiff and achy, and you don't really feel like you need to have anything on your knees, then don't wear anything on your knees. A lot of the best weightlifters in the world don't wear anything on their knees. The biggest clean and jerk in history, 266 kilos, which was done by a Soviet lifter named Leonid Taranenko back in 1988. He was wearing wrist wraps, and that's it. No belt, nothing on his knees. 200, that's 586 pounds in the clean and jerk with no supportive equipment. All right. So if you don't need anything on your knees, don't wear it. But if you do need it, if you've got a situation with your knees or your wrists, let's just go ahead and put knees and wrists together in this conversation, where you've got some stiffness, some achiness, and some pain, and you really feel like if you put on a knee sleeve or a wrist wrap, that it helps take care of the problem, then go ahead and wear it. If you're a weightlifter and if you've got wrist pain that is significant enough to where it pretty much kind of stops you from being able to train successfully, then wear wrist wraps. If you don't need them, don't wear them. When I did the biggest lifts of my career, I was not wearing anything on either my knees or my wrists. Just a belt in the clean and jerk only. My wrist didn't bother me, so I didn't wear wrist wraps. However, there have also been different times in my career where I did wear wrist wraps because my wrist did bother me. So I've used supportive equipment off and on at different points in my career, just depending on whether or not I thought I needed it at the time. Now, belts. Most weightlifters wear a belt in the clean and jerk only and not in the snatch. The reason for this is because in the clean and jerk, obviously because of the nature of the clean, the bar is actually sitting on the shoulders. The bar is sitting on the chest. And because of that, kind of direct bar pushing down on the body feeling you get in the clean and jerk, a lot of weightlifters will put a belt on their midsection just to feel like their torso and their trunk and their core has some extra support under the weight of that bar. In the snatch, the bar never sits on the shoulders. The bar is lifted from the floor to overhead, and there's never a moment where it's actually sitting directly on the body. So most lifters don't wear a belt in the snatch. Most lifters also kind of feel like having a belt on maybe kind of messes with their bottom position a little bit in the snatch, maybe throws off that deep squat bottom position they've got to have when they catch a snatch in the bottom. So there are a lot of different reasons for this, but if you kind of go through and research the sport, if you watch a lot of weightlifting, if you watch a lot of competitions, if you watch a lot of successful lifters, what you're usually going to find is, okay, knee wraps and knee sleeves, probably about half and half. I would say most of the best lifters out there, if you looked at them, probably about half of them wear something on their knees and half of them don't. Wrist wraps, probably about the same thing. I would say there are probably more weightlifters that use wrist wraps than don't, because the wrist can take a real beating when you're supporting maximum weights overhead in the snatch and clean and jerk. Belts, usually, most lifters are going to wear a belt in the clean and jerk and not in the snatch. You'll occasionally see weightlifters that use it in the snatch also, but not many. You'll see a lot more weightlifters who don't. Some weightlifters don't use a belt at all for either snatch or clean and jerk. You can go on and look at some of the absolute maximum weights that have ever been lifted in the history of the sport. 570, 580 pound clean and jerks by some of the great lifters from our history. A lot of them didn't wear belts or knee wraps or wrist wraps. I competed against a lifter named Andrei Chemerkin one time. He was a Russian lifter from the early 2000s who was Olympic champion in 1996 and world record holder. This guy wore nothing. He didn't wear wrist wraps. He didn't wear anything on his knees. He didn't wear a belt. He wore weightlifting shoes and his spandex weightlifting singlet and a t-shirt. That was it. So it just depends on the lifter. There's no one right universal rule. If you need to wear something because it makes it so that you can physically perform the lifts without pain that stops you, then go ahead and wear it. If you don't need it, don't use it. Just kind of some general thoughts. Thank you.